This disc is by far the best disc that I have ever seen. It takes this and just smooths it all out, makes it look like butter. So we have our Lemken Rubin 12 disc here with our big John Deere 9510 RT. We're out here in the field. This is a spud field that we just dug up, and we got to disc it, so we chop up all the vines and get it nice and smooth, ready for when we're ready to do it in the spring and plant grain in this field next year. So this disc is by far the best disc that I have ever seen. We just put these new nice shiny blue discs on here. If you want to know how we did that, the video a few videos back, or maybe it was the one before this, whenever I put it out, it shows exactly how we did this. We just changed all these discs, so they're nice and shiny. They've never touched dirt yet. They won't be shiny for very long. We'll rub that paint right off. Then they'll be just shiny chrome, kind of like these guys back here. But this disc, a little walk around, is pretty awesome. It's a high-speed disc. So how it works is the discs are all kind of at an angle instead of just being straight like most other discs. They're all kind of at an angle. When the front discs will throw the dirt clear up into these tines, and these tines will break it up, just breaking up the dirt. We want to break up the dirt, get it as loose as possible so that it can be incorporated into the ground. The second set of discs, chop it and throw it the opposite direction, and it throws it into these. These feather out the dirt to make it smooth. It smooths it out, kind of makes it a nice even all the way across. And then back here we have the crumbler. The crumbler will go over and it'll break up any hard dirt clods that were not chopped up by the disc. This will break it up. Now they're different sizes. The front one is bigger, packs a bigger punch, but the back one is smaller, so it spins a lot faster. Well, that speed, whatever the front one doesn't break up, the speed of the back one will break it up even more. So it folds up nice like this, so you don't have this big old wide disc going down the road. Our old disc, even though it did fold up, it was still really wide, but folds up nice because this is made in Germany where they have to drive down narrow roads. So we'll go inside and unfold it, and I'll show you exactly how it works. This thing does such an amazing job. It takes all these deep truck tracks, because this field is so uneven. We have deep ruts right here where the trucks had driven, and then we have spots right here where nothing had driven. So you get quite the difference between, like, down there and up here is about a foot difference. You can't really tell on the camera, but it is. And it'll take that and it'll work it up so it's just perfectly smooth. So let's go unfold this thing and I'll show you how it works. Actually, before we go up in the tractor, I got to set my level. So up here, there's two arrows right here. There's a red one and a silver one. The silver one is your level. Now you want the machine to be as level as possible, perfectly level. You want it to be level. So to get that arrow right there set, we have this little honeycomb thing, and we want to pull this out. So with that sitting loose, you want that to drop into the closest hole as possible with it loose. So depending on your tractor, where this is set on the hitch, if you have a case or something, or it might be a different height. So this is going to change depending on what tractor you put it in. Now on this tractor, that closest hole is the closest one. So I put that in there, and then I know that that silver arrow right there, when I get in the cab, I know that that is level. So when I get it all adjusted, I'll know that it's perfectly level with my tractor because I set that correctly. So now we're going to climb up in here and unfold it. Oh. Shut the door, it's loud. So, unfold this thing, easy peasy. Just unfold it. Click the little hydraulic button that you got it hooked into and unfold the guy. So while that's unfolding, those two arrows are right there. And that gauge, 1 to 9, that is where you'll set your level and you'll set your depth. So the red arrow is your depth. So looking at it now, I know that we're not quite level. What I want to do is I want to drop this down. Oh, I forgot something. There's a lock back there on those rear rams that I forgot to unlock. You got to lock it when you drive down the road so it doesn't sway back and forth. So let's go unlock that real quick. Back here on the back, on these rams, and you got to be careful with these when you touch them because they'll get really sharp. My dad sliced his arm open once. There's this big lock on these rams. You got to pull that to unlock it. That way you can lower it down. You got to lock that when you're traveling, or the disc can start to sway back and forth if you go around a corner or something. All right, now that that's locked, we can unlock, I guess. We can drop it down. Now with this, you just put it all the way down because those tires do not control your depth. Unlike other discs, our old disc, the tires control the depth. On this, your depth is controlled by that crumbler in the back. So we put it all the way down with the tires so they're completely off the ground. You can see the discs aren't even touching. So what we got to do is we got to hit our hydraulic that is that red arrow. That red arrow is the depth. So we want to drop that red arrow down. Here I like to go about 5 or 6. It'll kind of depend because as I get going through the field, if it starts to plug up with vines or something, I will lift it up a little bit. But I'll drop it to 5 or 6, and then I look to see how level it is. Now normally you can go out and you see these cross braces right here. This one right there, that guy. So that one is pretty much level. So you want to base your level on that. So if I hit the other hydraulic that controls the silver arrow, we'll drop this, let me zoom out just a little bit. You hit that one and you'll be able to see the machine starts to tilt forward. So I tilt it forward. Around here, I know that 5 with new discs, when I set that on 5, it's pretty much level. So we'll go out there and look at it and make sure that it is level, and then we'll get discing. So now I can come out here and I can look. So this brace right here is tapered, so it's got an angle. So that's not the one you want to look at level. It's right here, this guy. You look at that, and look across, and that looks pretty darn level to me. You could even bring an actual level out here and sit it on there to make sure you're level. But I've done this a lot and I know that that's level to me. Now you can kind of see how these work. So these discs will throw it up into these tines, break it up. These ones throw it up into here, feather it out, and then the crumbler comes across and makes it nice and smooth. Now, these, you can adjust these up and down. This is where I like them. I like them all the way up for what we're doing, because this tractor can actually pull this at the speed that it needs to be pulled. It'll pull about 10 miles an hour. 8 to 10 is preferred. At that speed, it's throwing the stuff right up into there, so I don't really need to lower it down. If you have to go slower, you can drop those down. Now in the back, I like to have these. Granted, I'm not working the soil yet, but when the soil's worked up, the dirt will be about right there. You can see that it's shiny. So the dirt will be about here, so it is hitting the dirt and feathering it out, and then the disc will throw the dirt up here and it'll feather it out. So that's where I like to have that set. It's about halfway on that thing. We did snag a fence with this, so that's kind of bent. But that's all the setup we need to do. You do want to make sure every single day, there's a grease erk right here and right here, and then those big pins right there. So there's a grease erk there, and then there's one on the other side of this pin right here. Those you want to grease every single day, because if they seize up, this will not go up or down. It'll just be messed up. They'll have to drive it out and put it back together. So grease those every day. Also on those grease erks, you want to make sure not to use any grease that has moly in it, because moly will go in there and it'll turn hard like dirt, and you will not be able to grease it. You'll have to drive the pins out, clean the holes, all that stuff. I think we use a lithium based grease with no moly. That's the best grease for these things. Okay, now we're gonna set it down and we'll take off. Now I go slow at first to make sure that my depth is right, because with the fields I'm doing spud fields that have been done. You can see that those discs are barely touching the ground and those ones are really hitting the ground. So I just need all of it to be hit. So if I have any discs that aren't quite touching, I have to go a little bit deeper. So it looks like I need to go down just a little bit. So I'm drop that down. Looks like now that I'm in my ground, my level is slightly off. So we're gonna lift that up. And drop the depth down just a little bit more. So we're running about 7 on the depth. Now we'll speed it up and see if we start plugging up. Looks like we're getting a little plug on the front there. See if that clears out. If we start to plug up, then I have to lift it up just a little bit more. But for now, it looks like it's doing a pretty good job. I do need to go faster though. I'm only going 5 miles an hour, so let's speed up a bit. We'll get to 10 miles an hour here and see how she does. Looks like in these soil conditions I can only go about 8, which is good. That's just fine. We're cruising along at 8 miles an hour. You can't really see it now, but it isn't plugging up. You can't really see any of the discs. There's some of the discs. They're not really plugging up. So I think this is about a good speed. So we'll just keep it on this speed and keep on going. I'm to the end of the field now. So I like to go nice and slow, especially in this big tractor at the end of the field. Because when you get to the end, stop here for a minute. With a tractor, you have to be kind of careful. If you're pulling this with a tire tractor, wheel tractor, you're fine, you can turn. But with a tractor, I can turn just sitting here. So one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to hit that tongue with your track. So I'm going to pop it in here. When you're turning, you just got to watch and make sure your track doesn't hit that tongue. You can get pretty close. I get about a foot away and then you're good. But that's one thing you want to be careful of. You don't want to hit that tongue, because if you bend that tongue, man, it's kind of hard to replace. But yeah, don't hit that. Now here you can kind of see how good a job this does. I'm disking up the edge of the field. It's really weedy. Just tons of weeds that we didn't plant. And then if you look back there in the back, no weeds. Just works them up perfectly. Incorporates them, you can't even tell they were there. All right, so I've been disking a little bit of this field. I wanted to show you before it got dark. Another thing with this disc is you don't have to overlap. You don't overlap at all. You can see I have it set so the front disc stops here, but the back one actually has a disc out here. So I have it set to overlap maybe 6 inches, not very much. Basically, I just want to catch a little bit and fling it back in, because it has this plate right here that catches everything that gets thrown this way and just stops it. So you're not going to get a pile right here. And then that back disc, anything that is piled there, gets feathered back in. So you don't have to overlap with this disc, so you're not losing any ground. You're not having to redo stuff over and over again. Another thing I wanted to show you, I've done a little bit. Now look how smooth this is. Like, this is just nice, buttery smooth. You can't really tell what it used to be. Like, you can see a couple of spud vines in there, but pretty much just nice and smooth. Not a single track. I mean, this dirt is just, there's no clods. It just broke everything all up nice. Just smoothed it right out. And you compare it to what we are working up. Look at this. Huge, gnarly tracks. I mean, that's a deep track. And it takes this deep track right here. It's probably actually 1.5 feet below right here. So it takes this and just smooths it all out, makes it look like butter. So nice. But I have never seen a disc do this good a job. They do make a bigger one than this one. This was their biggest one when we bought it, but now they make a bigger one that I think it's 10 feet wider than this one. But you need a big machine to pull these. Like, it's all this giant tractor can do to pull this. I got it up to 9.6 miles an hour, but the faster you go, the better it's gonna do. All right, guys, well, thanks for joining me. Hope you learned something about this. I know that it is unlike any other disc. It takes a lot of setup to get it right. You can't just fold it down, drop it in and go. But when you do get it set up right, you get fields that look like this, just so smooth. For us, we used to haul manure. We might still haul manure in the winter when the ground's frozen. So when it's smooth like this, way easier on the trucks. But that's how you set this thing up to make it run perfect. You don't want to unlevel it. You don't want the nose digging in or the back digging in. You got to set it up just right. But when you do that, man, it is an awesome disc. Does the best job I've ever seen. And it can go like 10 miles an hour. So you can't beat that. Show me another disc that does a better job than this. I haven't seen one. Anyway, hope you liked it. Hope you learned something. Subscribe, it's free, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, we've got some of these changed. We got all the ones underneath changed. They're the hardest ones to get to. We got all those changed. We got a couple of these changed, 3 of these changed. We're gonna lower the wings down and to change those. These 3, I took out all the bolts except for one, so when we lower it down, it'll be easy to take it off. But they're over on the other side getting some changed so we can lower it down. And here's one of the discs that we just took off compared to a new one. You can see how worn out it is. And that's
total about 6 or 7 inches.
At least 6 inches wore off. That's why we gotta change them, because it doesn't really do a good job when they're worn that small. This side's now done. Got all the discs on. Looks a lot nicer with nice blue discs on it. Looks brand new. And we've been stacking all the old ones over there. We still have the other side to do a few, so let's go over there. Okay, we're done. We got all the discs on. Both sides, got them all tightened up. So this disc is different from our old disc. Our old disc was a John Deere disc, and it had like, and you guys probably have these discs, but it's the ones where you have a big long shaft and there's one big nut on the end. You take that off, you drop the whole set, you got to replace all the discs, then you can't get them tight all the way, and it's kind of a pain. This takes a little while to change them, but if you were by yourself, you could totally do this by yourself. As far as like the old discs, there's no way you could do that by yourself. But these you could do by yourself. It does take a little longer, but also because all these are on their own bearing, if you ever have a bearing go out, you just replace one bearing, versus our old disc, we'd have a bearing go out and it would fall off, twist, move around, and just break the whole arm off. So definitely a better system. It's pretty nice.
34 bearings instead of 4 on one shaft.
Yeah, you have 34 bearings instead of 4 bearings. So a lot better setup. It does take a little while. If you have 4 people, it only took us 2 hours to do, so not too bad. Their chisel plow, the Lemken chisel plow, each shank just has a pin that you pull. Makes it super easy. So come on, Lemken, make an easier way to do this. But it's not too bad. 6 bolts on each disc. Makes for pretty easy changing. Now we just gotta fold it up and get it out of here. Oh yeah, we actually have to fold it down to pull it out because our shop is so old, the door is tiny, and it can't fit through the door if it's folded up all the way. Those new discs sure look nice. They won't have paint on them for very long, but right now they look really nice. This crumbler in the back makes this thing smooth as butter. It just smooths the dirt out, breaks up all the dirt clods, and makes it nice and smooth. I've just never seen much of a better disc.